Here is the voice of the working class, Rick Smith.
And welcome, brothers, sisters, working class heroes. This is the Rick Smith Show. Thanks so much for being here. Today on the big program, lots to get to, lots to talk about. Oh, the fun, oh, the entertainment, oh, the enjoyment. We found out recently that we've got a Pennsylvania Senate candidate, Dr. Oz, who evidently thinks that kids having sex and having kids with their cousins, not a big deal. As long as it's not your first cousin, that second one, I guess he grew up in an environment, kissing cousins things, okay, not a big deal. As long as it's not your first cousin, you do what you got to do. Also found out that Donald Trump actually did have the nuclear secrets that he claimed that he didn't have, and stored them there at his Golden Palace. And the weird thing is not a peep from the party of family values or the party of law and order. Very interesting. The silence, kind of deafening. Crickets, if you will. And why? Because, well, this is who the Republican Party is. This is who they are, and their candidates, the candidates, they're fun. Some bad, some worse, some even worse than worse. And, for instance, and this is one of those things I wanted to get to yesterday, but didn't have a chance. Because understand, I've believed for years that, Democrats, Republicans, Independents, Greens, Libertarians, everybody kind of in the same, heading towards the same destination. We want to get to the same kind of place. I'm questioning that in a huge way. The kind of world conservatives want to move us towards, frightening. And I look at this state senator from South Carolina. South Carolina. A guy named Richard Cash. He, again, now go back to Dr. Oz. Hey, it's okay as long as you're not first cousins. This Senator Cash, he's making the case that 16 and 17-year-olds are mature enough to get married as long as they've got parental consent, but oddly enough, not mature enough to access birth control, even with parental consent. It's just weird, and I guess you have to hear the clip, and I got to play this because South Carolina Senator Brad Hutto asks Senator Cash about his position on contraception. And, well, I think you just got to let the good senator from South Carolina speak for himself.
They're not mature enough to be taught about contraception in school, and they're not mature enough to receive contraception on their parents' health plan, and they're not mature enough to get contraception from the health department, but they are mature enough to get married? Is that what you're saying?
Well, it's a fair question, and I'm happy to answer it. I think my position, when this has come up before, is if a 16 or 17-year-old, certainly if they have their parental consent and they wish to get married and their parents approve it, then correct, I don't have a problem with that.
But you just moved to table a bill that required parental consent to get birth control pills on the parent's health plan. Where's the logic?
Well, the logic is I believe sex belongs within marriage because sex leads to children and children needs parents. And so I'm not in favor of the state paying for contraceptives for unmarried children. I don't think that's a good policy. I think children come from sex, and children need a mommy and a daddy. and that means marriage.
So mom and dad can give consent to get you married at 16, but not to put you on birth control.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Sure.
That's it. Yeah. For a second, thought it was Herschel Walker's kind of, and this is kind of the Republican positions on things. Let them talk and let them tell you what they twistedly believe. Now again, South Carolina, another state. Remember, Republicans said, no, it's going to be a state's issue, and we're going to protect the rights of mothers and all this stuff. South Carolina is now a state that has removed exemptions for rape and incest from women's abortive care. I mean, this is, again, listen to who they say they are, and who they are is kind of frightening. Now again, all white guys. All good, God-fearing Christian white guys. And the question becomes is what kind of an America do we want? And like I said, I think this election is going to show us the direction that we're going. But, I've said for a while that, I used to believe that we all wanted the same destination. It was just different paths, different policies, different ideas. Not so much. So for me, where is this going to take us? Now, yesterday I got taken to task by a listener over my assertion that Reagan is responsible for the demise of this country, especially the demise of the working class. He still buys the myth that Reagan single-handedly took down the Soviets and is responsible for sliced bread or whatever. Still buys that myth of the sainted Reagan. And as I was going through this back and forth, my problem is I'm not a true believer in any one. There are no absolute heroes in any world. I don't even agree with myself 100% of the time. So I don't understand blind loyalty. I don't understand this kind of this blind faith. I understand making lives better. I want people's lives to get better. That's my North Star. When I was a kid growing up in the projects, I think about that kid growing up in that same place I lived and what opportunities and chances that kid's going to have. And I want them to have the same, if not better, than I had. It's pretty simple. But I look at this kind of division that's going on, and I'm curious your thoughts. 1-866-416-RICK, 1-866-416-7425. Are you concerned about the direction that we're going based on this blind faith ideology? This kind of command and control of individual liberty and lives while saying it's about individual liberty and lives. For instance, federal judge in Texas, story broke today, has declared it unconstitutional for the Affordable Care Act to require insurance and employers to offer the HIV prevention drugs as part of their plans, claiming that somehow this violates Christian religious liberty. Well, kind of bizarre, but this is what it is. It's not like only gay people get HIV. I think we're past that. So I'm not sure what the rationale here is, other than just this control. And you listen to these ideologues, and the stuff that they throw is crazy. I mean, I go back to Dr. Oz. A clip has been unearthed of Dr. Oz speaking, saying that the uninsured don't have a right to health, which is kind of a twisted thing to say. But people should be given the ability to crawl their way back out of the abyss of being uninsured. And I'm going, am I confusing something here? Now, his solution is we should have giant festivals for healthcare, and people can get 15-minute physicals. It's a TV guy. This is the grand healthcare plan. This is the plan of how we're going to help people get the care that they need. Big festivals. You can come into the big pop tent and, turn your head and cough and all that. And the weird thing, and I go back to this, I used to believe this, that we wanted the same things, good jobs, safe neighborhoods, quality schools, health care, education, life, liberty, pursuit of happiness, that stuff. But sadly, I come back to this. The more I talk to Trump supporters, the more I talk to Republicans and Republican candidates, the more I don't think we share a similar future. And this is where elections matter. This is where getting out and voting matters. For years, people were telling me, Rick, you're crazy. Roe is decided law. They're not going to overturn Roe. They just use it for fundraising and for riling people up and getting people all lathered up in the panties. I'm going, no, they get the chance. They're going to do it. And they're going to go even further. Contraception is coming. And yet here we are. Here we are in this moment where conservatives are going in that route. And I keep asking myself, what happened to get government out of my life? What happened to smaller, less intrusive government? Now, we both know that was all nonsense. But the reality is this election matters. And matters in huge ways on how it's going to affect not just us in this moment, but the future generations of this country. What kind of a place do we want to leave? Now, the right does a masterful job of scaring people into, Joe Biden and socialism. And you go, I'm not seeing that. By all means, share. I'd love to hear the thoughts on what is socialism, especially from people who collect Social Security. I usually get, and those are the people who usually yell that the most because they're the most afraid of it. The ones who are secure with Social Security and Medicare. But, I'm not too far away from the place where the guy yelled at Arlen Specter, "Get your government hands off my Social Security." Quick note, Social Security is a government-run program, just for those who don't know. Just got to throw that out there. So I'd love to hear your thoughts. 1-866-416-RICK, 1-866-416-7425. What direction are we going? Are you concerned about the future? Quick break, right back with your thoughts after this. Stick around. You're listening to The Rick Smith Show. For working people from the top.
From the steel mills of Pennsylvania to the auto factories of Michigan to the modern makers movement, manufacturing makes our nation great. I'm Scott Paul, president of the Alliance for American Manufacturing. We bring business and labor together to advocate for policies that everyone can agree on. Together, we can strengthen manufacturing and create good-paying American jobs. Help us keep it made in America.
So today, President Obama and the First Lady were in D.C. for the official unfurling of the presidential portraits. Kind of took a while, don't you think? It's about 6 years since he's been out of office. And it then made the question, when Trump and Melania, when it's time for theirs, because look, whether you like it or not, you're going to have a portrait there. What should that look like? Now, interestingly, and not surprisingly, folks sent, images on Twitter of, him looking like a clown, and all of that. And I've had some racy comments about what Melania's picture should look like. But, ultimately, I want them to have their picture there. It should, maybe with an asterisk somewhere near. Twice impeached and, some of the problems there. But this is one of those things where I think that it has to be done relatively soon. And I think it would be, incumbent on President Biden to move forward on that. Make sure that happens. Should be who we are, that institutions move forward and maintain, even if we don't agree. And look, I don't agree with almost anything that Trump did. Couple of policies I've given him, the credit he's due on. The renegotiation of NAFTA I thought was not horrible. He got a lot of input from labor and a lot of input from Democrats, and that that bipartisanship did help move it forward. The tariffs on China, I give him credit for that, even though it wasn't part of a bigger plan that you should have engaged the rest of the world around. But those are things that I agreed with and have always said that. What's interesting to me is I can't find a Republican right now who's going to give Joe Biden the credit that I think he deserves in this moment. And I look at this this op-ed, written by Paul Krugman, and I like Krugman. I think he's a bright guy. I think the stories are his articles are important, but interesting column on. And look, this will make the Trump cult really, really angry, because he asked the question, has Biden economics been good for workers? And the answer is, yes. Jobs have been created. We've seen unemployment plummet. We've seen, people being able to change jobs. We've seen organizing happening. There's a lot of good stuff. And Krugman concludes that if you take food and energy out of the equation, since those are global commodities and things that no president really has absolute control over, when you take those out, that workers have done well under this president, and that inequality has begun to shrink. Now again, the alligator jaw is still wide open, but inequality is shrinking because a lot of the wage gains have been for the folks at the bottom, that we're buoying up the bottom, which for me, again, one of these moments where we should be raising the minimum wage so that that floor doesn't get to drop out at some point down the road, because we know how much, people love to give, like, hey, you're essential and you're a frontline hero and here's a bonus, and then claw it right back. Now, Krugman says that, Biden economics could lead to a revitalization of the labor movement in this country, because yes, there's a lot of organizing going on. There's a lot of energy around coming together. And for me, this is the exciting part of where we are, because this, I think, is the thing that we can agree on. While we may not ever agree on same-sex marriage or transgender issues, which are thrown out there specifically to divide and tear us apart, this should be one of those things that we do come together on, because as Krugman does say, unions do raise wages. That's their job, especially among, less skilled, low-wage workers. I point to this article over at the Washington Post, titled 4,000 Google cafeteria workers quietly unionized during the pandemic. And they pointed out that, and as I've said all along, union job, better life, that these workers at these Google offices, these cafeteria workers, their wages have gone up sufficiently. And as is pointed out in the piece, that the average unionized cafeteria worker at Google makes $24 an hour, pays virtually nothing for their health care, and has access to a retirement plan. Whereas the non-union folks like Sodexo, who I guess is just being organized down in Atlanta at the Google facility there, they make $15 an hour and pay through the nose for health care and have no pension whatsoever. Again, back to this, this union job, better life frame. This is what organizing does. And they finished up the article talking about this guy, Richard Ramirez, who, a 33-year-old guy who works at this, works in the food chain there, the cafeteria chain, in, I believe it's in Seattle, where he now makes, $27 an hour, has free health care, and doesn't think about, can I take my kids to the doctor? Doesn't think about, are they going to be okay? And he said in the article, he said, he thought he had it good. He was making $20 an hour at Google, and that was $11 more than he made at a job previously. But he didn't have any money for rent. He didn't have money for anything. And he was commuting, 3 hours back and forth to work, all this stuff. And because of the union, he got a livable wage. And, he said, since we unionized, I bought a home, and that was basically only possible because we unionized. And for me, that's the message. I've been asked, why are you such a strong supporter? I go, because, when I was a kid, I watched lives get better. People got union jobs, food at the end of the month. Immediately better. Kids got, bikes, better clothing, better opportunities, bought a secondhand car, eventually moved out of that environment entirely. Lives got better. This is the message that needs to be repeatedly put out there. Out of the entire article, which was, a lot of the facts and figures and statistics and all this stuff, the part that grabbed me, this guy's story. The fact that through his work, he has health security, doesn't worry about his kids getting sick, doesn't worry about if the kids fall and broken arm, playing on the monkey bars, because it has health security, has some retirement security. He's not worried about down the road, but also makes enough money that can buy a house, can build for the future. I mean, is that not the American dream? Is that not what we were told? Again, that work hard, play by the rules, get ahead frame. And is that not the common direction I think the vast majority of us want to go? Now, I go back to the stuff I talked about earlier. The fact that they divide us on all of these issues that aren't germane to our everyday lives. Same-sex marriage, I don't care about. And this is the weird part. I spend a lot of my day in the I don't care department. I don't care if two people get married. Wish them the best. Good for you. Doesn't matter to me at all. Why we have an entire political movement in this country are fixated on what other people are doing is beyond me. The transgender issue, I don't care. I want people to lead the best life that they can, pursue their happiness. God bless them. But does it matter to me what they do? No. And it shouldn't matter to anybody else because no one's making you do it either. But when did we become fixated on this stuff? As I said, in my workplace 30 years ago, we dealt with the transgender issue. Guy went away. He'd worked there for years. We knew him, he came back. He was a she. Nobody cared. Person came, did their job. They went home at the end of the day. It wasn't a big deal. Why now are these the things that we focus on? Well, because the powers to be know that this rips us apart. It divides us. It keeps us pitted against each other and not walking where we can together on issues where we should, like making lives better. The wealth class understands this. And while they may not be able to pay half the working class to murder the other half as easily as they've done in the past, they can pit us against each other. And this is the battleground of where they do it. I wish we would go back to the time where, as my grandfather said, don't worry about me, worry about yourself. This is one of those issues. Love to hear your thoughts. Email me, rick@thericksmithshow.com. Quick break. Right back.
We've been farming the same farm for 3 generations, and it's just always been where I've wanted to be. Any farmer you talk to in Montana will tell you that the climate is definitely changing. The weather is way more extreme. We went from the wettest year we've ever had to this year with the worst drought we've had since the 80s. We have done everything we can to keep water going, but it got close to running out. Farmers can't afford the cost of climate change. Congress has to get this done.
So, AP story caught my attention today. Headline, Michael Flynn, from government insider to holy warrior. And I think they left out a whole lot in between there. But it's interesting, he's now unabashedly claiming that this should be a Christian nationalist country, that, it's all about, everything should be about Christianity and, that kind of holy war thinking, and cashing in. I mean, look, religion's where the money's at, man. Become a religious charlatan and spew the nonsense and the cash will flow. To me, part of that, but also I think the guy's flipping off his rocker. But here to share some thoughts on the holy warrior aspect I've asked our good friend Rich Ojeda to come talk with us. Rich is the national spokesperson for No Dem Left Behind. Rich, thanks for taking time for us.
Anytime, Rick. I always enjoy it.
So, what do you think from government insider? He was national security advisor, part of that, to now Christian warrior.
Well, I think what you said, it kind of makes me think that he's trying to lean towards becoming the next televangelist, because everybody knows how lucrative that is in the United States of America. And I could see him with dollar signs in his eyes. The mere fact of what this guy has done since getting out of the military is absolutely just sickening, and one of the things that Colin Powell said before his passing was that the Army should bring Michael Flynn back on active duty and court-martial him for the crimes that he has committed. And it just seems like he gets worse and worse and worse. And it's quite scary, but it's also kind of scary when you think that a person like that actually climbed all the way to the level of 3-star general in the United States military. And I like to think that the leaders in our military, that you don't get to that level unless you have your stuff wired tight, solid, a good leader. And, seeing Michael Flynn, I know that, he's a rarity, but it just amazes me that he was able to climb as high as he did in the military.
What do you say to the people, though, Rich, who go, look, we now see this leaked email of the Oath Keepers, membership list. A lot of them are military. A lot of them are law enforcement. That, the military and law enforcement now, maybe more than at any point in our history, infiltrated by these kind of groups and this kind of thinking.
Yeah, and they need to be absolutely purged from the military, purged from the police force, purged from, running for office. All of these people, none of these people deserve to serve in leadership roles. If you were in the military and you were home on leave and you hung out with some of these guys, I get it. Maybe because I can remember Oath Keepers in my hometown, and there was a group of them, and they would always go and serve as the security for some of the festivals and stuff like that. But after seeing what took place on January the 6th, knowing how involved they were, we're getting ready to watch Elmer Fudd, their leader, who shot his eye out on a daggone gun range. We're about to see him get, prosecuted. And, I think now that we've seen all that and we know exactly what the Oath Keepers are about, then that's a different story. Some of these people need to be absolutely purged, but even if they're like young soldiers, they had better absolutely be willing to, 100% denounce this organization.
But what do you say to the people who look at, the 3%ers, the Oath Keepers, the Minutemen, all of these militia groups, and for years have been saying this is who they are? Why are we now surprised that they proved what people have been saying all these years?
Yeah, well, it's easy to see these people and see how dangerous they are, and listen to their words that they spread and the propaganda that they spread. But on January 6th was different. January 6th was no more. It was no longer talking. Anybody can run their pie hole all they want, but when you actually put action to it, then that's a different story. It kicked it up another notch. And now seeing what the Proud Boys and the Oath Keepers and the 3%ers did when they participated in January 6th, that's a different story. Now, as far as I'm concerned, they are a criminal entity and they need to be treated, period.
Yeah, no, again, the leader of the Oath Keepers on trial, going to be tried to fire his lawyers, and when I saw it, I think I mentioned this the other day, it seems to me just an attempt to prolong the inevitable, which he's going to be tried and hopefully convicted. The judge was having none of it.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. They're going to play this BS games, just like your Steve Bannons and people like that. They always think that they're one step of everybody, and the truth is they're one step ahead of the poorly educated base, But anybody that's got their head on straight knows and can see him coming a mile away. At the end of the day, these people are going down. I believe that the leaders of the Oath Keepers and the Proud Boys, I look for at least 15 years. That's my thoughts.
Wow, and that would be helpful. Now you brought up Steve Bannon. It's expected Thursday for him to be indicted.
Yeah, I mean, and this was part of the whole stealing from the wall. And that's one of the things that always bothers me is you have all these people out here that are Trump loyalists that, don't realize Donald Trump had 14 days between the time they stormed the Capitol until the time he left office. He didn't even try to pardon those people that stormed the Capitol for him because he didn't care about them. He pardoned Roger Stone. He pardoned Manafort. He pardoned Bannon. He pardoned Flynn. Those are the types of people that he pardoned. He didn't care about the actual people that stormed the Capitol for him. And that's how it is. So, at the end of the day, I just wish more people would wake up and see the writing on the wall, because that's what this is. I want to see Steve Bannon go down. I don't want to see 30 days. I know that on two parts of his crime, those can go up to a year each. I want to see him get a year for every one of them. You know, I'm sick and tired of watching people like that get a slap on the wrist, and average everyday people, other people, absolutely go down.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. You're listening to the Rick Smith Show. We're Rich Ojeda. Rich is the national spokesperson for No Dems Left Behind. NoDemsLeftBehind.com, the website. We'll get links out on social media. I can check out the work that they do. Now, again, this is one of these moments where you look at the Trump administration, one of the greatest criminal enterprises I think that's ever taken office. And we're starting to see, I think, a number of people being on trial. How come we haven't really seen the kind of rolling over that I was hoping to expect? The rats really trying to save themselves. Do they still believe that in 24 he's going to become president and pardon the whole lot of them?
No, I think that it's all about timing right now. I think that everybody, for the most part, wants DeSantis, but they know that DeSantis cannot claim to run for the presidency until Donald Trump is put away and denied to be able to run for the presidency, because first and foremost, as long as Donald Trump is out there claiming he's running, nobody can run against him, because if they do, then they have to go against Trump. And no Republican can win without Trump's base. So what they're hoping is they're hoping that Donald Trump is going to be disqualified here soon, which he should be, and then somebody like DeSantis is going to say, hey, don't worry about it. If I win in 2024, I'll take care of you, Donald Trump. And then Donald Trump will then tell his base, support Ron DeSantis. And that's the only perfect scenario for them. Anything other than that is a no-go. If they don't arrest Donald Trump and he's a 2024 candidate, Donald Trump will never be able to win. He couldn't win the popular vote in this last race. And make no mistake about it, there's a lot of Republicans that are not voting for Donald Trump anymore, to include many that died during COVID.
Yeah. Now, look, you just had the FBI find, documents that, according to the Washington Post and other reports, describing foreign militaries, their military defenses, nuclear capabilities. Found this at the Golden Palace there at Mar-a-Lago, among a whole bunch of other really closely held secrets. And I don't know the justification of why you think you could take it. I don't know how he got all this stuff, and I don't know how you justify this president having them at a freaking country club. There's in no world is this sane.
No, there is no justification for that. It doesn't work like that. And, I held a top secret security clearance, and if I fraction of that, I would have lost my military career and my freedom. And understand that, okay, why are the Republicans, why are Fox News, OAN, and Newsmax not answering the question as to why did he have those documents? First and foremost, anybody who's held a top secret security clearance knows none of that stuff was declassified, because it has to be declassified and then it has to have declassified stamped across it, which it did not have. It was not declassified. That's just how it is. And you got to think, why would Donald Trump have in his possession the nuclear capabilities of another country unless he was going to try and make them have to pay, for him to not give it to somebody, or he was going to sell it to their enemies. I tell people all the time, it was to sell or to trade. Those were the only two reasons why he had all those documents down there in Mar-a-Lago. And we now don't even know what has been seen, what has been photographed, what has been sent to other countries out there. We have no clue. And the truth is you can't put it past Donald Trump. He's a selfish, egotistical, narcissist, absolute sack is what he is. And I hope and pray that this man goes down. And we need to deal with him. Don't worry about the repercussions. Let these poorly educated knuckleheads rise up if they want to. They'll get put down too, but we got to squash this quick.
Yeah, no, it does bring up the question. Jared Kushner got $2 billion from the Saudis. Maybe?
Yeah, exactly. And you also have to wonder, did Jared Kushner give them the information where Khashoggi was going to be before they snatched him up and murdered him? I mean, we have no clue. And you can't put it past none of these people. These people don't care about our country. They only care about one thing, and that's themselves, period.
Now, you said you had national security clearance. How hard is it to get a hold of these documents and the process? Because I'm still trying to figure out how he gathered all of this stuff. I mean, this is a lot of stuff, Rich.
All of that is a major investigation. First and foremost, those documents dealing with another nation's nuclear capabilities, it is illegal for them to even be out of a skiff, period. And you got to understand that, a top secret security clearance does not give you the ability to look at those type of documents. Those documents are only seen by literally probably 4 or 5 people, period. That's it. Just because you have a top secret security clearance doesn't mean that you get to look at certain things that are not, part of what you do. So, how did those documents get from the skiff into those boxes? How did those boxes get from Washington, D.C. to Mar-a-Lago? Because make no mistake about it, anything that is secret, top secret, classified, it cannot move in a regular moving truck. And I believe that's exactly what happened. That alone is a crime. All of this stuff for anybody, to get a security clearance, even a secret, it takes forever. It's months of paperwork. And you got to go back and you've got to remember every person's name. They sent people to my hometown and talked to my middle school teachers and asked them, could Richard Ojeda be trusted with secret information? That's the level that they go to when you get a clearance like this. So, it is just hard to imagine. Jared Kushner and Ivanka didn't even go through the process. Donald Trump told them, give them a clearance when they did not go through the process. They didn't go through the 3 months of paperwork. They didn't do any of that. Donald Trump basically gave them a pass.
Now, but let's finish up on this, because the argument that I'm getting from my friends on the right is none of this stuff applies because he was president. He could wave the magic wand, Rich. It all goes away because he waved the magic wand.
No, that's not true. That is not true. You don't wave a magic wand over documents. You have to get the documents declassified. And let me tell you something. There are documents that Donald Trump cannot declassify. Just because he's a president of the United States does not mean he's above the law. That's what our country is all about. And you don't get to just say, I'm declassifying this information. You cannot declassify nuclear capabilities. You can't do it. And Donald Trump is now saying that. And of course, his base is going to do everything in their power. But imagine this. Could you imagine what would happen if Hillary Clinton would have been found in possession of a top secret document? They would have went absolute crazy. Remember, they had 4 years to find Hunter's laptop and Hillary's email, and they failed miserably. But that's the same crowd right now that acts as if Donald Trump didn't do anything wrong. Make no mistake about it. Those were the ones that were screaming, lock her up the entire time. And it's absolute garbage.
No, I'm right there with you. Rich, as always, great stuff. Appreciate the time, man. Keep up the passion.
All right, brother. I appreciate you, man.
Our good friend Rich Ojeda. Make sure you check out the website, NoDemLeftBehind.com. We'll get links out on social media. You can take a look at that. Quick break. Right back. Stick around.
It doesn't happen like we think it does. No one rolls the tanks. No armies meet in pitched battle. It happens quietly, little by little. And because so many think it can't happen, it does happen. Little by little, the rules change. It doesn't seem shocking or sudden. And that's the point. Fewer places to vote, longer lines. Don't worry, they say. We're just improving the system. They hope we won't notice the rules are changing because they lost the last election. They hope we just won't care enough to stop them. They believe they can take America away from us, and we won't even notice. We know who they are. We know what they want. The question is, who are we? Do we let them get away with it, or do we fight? Democracy is on the ballot. Vote while your vote still counts. The Lincoln Project is responsible for the content of this advertising.
So Rita sent me an email during the break. She writes, Rick, in response to all these draconian laws being passed in red states to ban abortion and control women's bodies, if women decided to refuse to have sex as a way to protest and prevent forced pregnancy, I bet right-wing Republicans would then pass laws to decriminalize rape. I don't disagree, but look at a state like Ohio, where if you're married, there's no such thing as rape. I'm not. You can look this up. They've already done that, so to speak. So there's no withholding. Sorry, but I get the point. It is about the power and the control, and this is where I keep saying, listen, pay attention. If you've got daughters, listen, pay attention. I've said this in the past. I could live in conservative world as a white guy, simply. But I do have daughters, and they would have to live under the kind of draconian laws that keep getting passed in these places. It's kind of frightening, and I worry about the future of this country for my daughters. I worry about what they're going to have to encounter from these people. It's frightening. Very, very frightening stuff. Let's quick go to the phones. We've got Christopher from Chicago on line one. Christopher, how are you today?
Hi, Rick. How are you today?
I'm good. What's on your mind?
Hey, your friend Rich was just on, and he said if they found classified documents on Hillary's server, James Comey's on TV saying they did. So they did find them.
Now, if you remember and you go back, those were classified after the fact, after they were sent.
Top secret classified.
Those were.
I mean, you can watch the video of James Comey.
Yeah, no, I've seen it, and I've also found I've also seen the report that they came out with. If she did this, why is she not? Hold on, stop. If she did this, why is she not in jail?
Because
why during the 4 years that Trump was president and had the DOJ, had Billy Barr there for him, had the FBI, Christopher Wray, his guy, why did they during those 4 years not indict, try, and convict her?
Because in my opinion, it's a big cabal, and they all watch out for each other. They're never going to put any of them in jail. None of them.
This is where you and I probably would agree normally.
About you.
This is where we probably would agree, but I think what Trump has done has gotten so many people outraged that something has to be done.
What did he do that got so many people outraged exactly?
He's got nuclear secrets in... Chris, come on.
Okay, an anonymous source, once again, an anonymous source is saying this. When you can prove to me that that's what they have, then I might get on board with you.
Would you believe that? Right now, hold on. Okay, so you're going to say that if that's the case, you're on that, and you would agree with that Trump should be tried and convicted. Is that what you're saying? I want to get you on the record, Chris. I want to get you on the record, Chris, of saying that if that is true, and it looks like the DOJ is moving that direction, you're going to go along. Just yes or no answer. There's no verbiage. There's no back and forth. Yes or no.
Wait, there's no. I mean, the FBI has proof to lie.
No, you see, you keep filibustering. You're not answering the question. Question is very simple.
Why would I say yes to
Very
that
simple.
when they're untrustworthy? They're untrustworthy.
All right.
Why would I believe them?
There you go. Okay,
That's
so
the truth.
you're going to
That's the
believe
truth. They
nothing.
lied to a
There's
FISA
no
court.
point in going any further with it. Then, no matter what comes out,
Why
no
did
matter
James
what
Comey get
is
fired?
presented,
Why did
no matter what you're saying is, no matter what is presented, you're not going to believe it, and you're immovable. And I get that, Chris. Okay.
No, if there's
that
a
is no. That's what you just said. You
preponderance
said
of
you don't
evidence,
believe them, and I get it, and I appreciate it. Thank you.
I mean, why would I trust the FBI? Why?
I trust our judicial system because if we don't, we don't have.
You do. The same people that put black people in jail for all those years. That system you trust. You can't have it both ways. You can't say that they put innocent black people in jail for years and then say you trust us. Stand that. I mean, how could you have it both ways?
So what do we have if we don't have a judicial system that we can trust? We have nothing.
This is just my opinion, Rick.
Okay.
We need to get rid of all of them. Vote for a new person, whoever your representative. Put a new Democrat in. Put a new Republican in. They're all corrupt. They don't care about us, the people, anymore. None of them. That's what I keep trying to tell everybody. They don't care about you and I. They don't. You think Democrats care about the working man? John Kerry, Nancy Pelosi cares about the working man more than Mitch McConnell? None of them do. They don't care about you and I. They care about their pockets. That's it.
No,
my opinion.
No, this is why I hope people will get out in November and vote. I appreciate the call, man. Thanks. I come back to this point, and this is where I got to wrap this up. Without a judicial system that we can have some faith in, and look, it's got problems. Whenever you got people involved in anything, you got problems. But if we're in a position where we don't believe anything that comes out of our judicial system, we've got bigger problems than just one orange guy. Just my thoughts. I'd love to hear yours. You can email me, rick@thericksmithshow.com. If you miss any portion of the program, make sure you grab the podcast. Always there, always available, just there for you. Going to take a quick break. Right back. Stick around.
All right, just like Daddy.
They'll probably never know about his thousands of hours of on-the-job training.
There you go, Daddy.
Or that he spent as much time in the classroom as someone with a master's degree. You and I know he's one of the experts when it comes to electricity. Part of the team committed to doing the job right. They call him Dad. You call him the electrician right down the street. IBEW, the power professionals in your neighborhood.
Welcome back to the Rick Smith Show. Check out our website, ricksmithshow.com. Questions, comments, something on your mind, you can email me, rick@thericksmithshow.com. I got a couple of emails I wanted to jump into. Caught my attention, and if you want to email me, rick@thericksmithshow.com. I do answer all emails, and then sometimes we get them here on the air. No name, just an email address. Rick, your Teamster caller yesterday talked about labor's violent past, which most people don't really know anything about. I love your labor history. And two, how do we get labor education into the schools? Been asking about that for a very long time. Something that we should teach, actual history, actually what happened. Wisconsin has a labor history component to their education system. I think it's a quarter, sometime in high school, where you learn about, the struggles, the battles, the fights, the labor wars that happened in this country. And I say that component, and I'm surprised that the Republicans, and maybe they have, if my listeners in Wisconsin want to chime in and let me know. It's, back in 2011 when you had the huge uprising of, everyone going to the Capitol, that was cited as one of the things that they hearkened back to their education and understanding how important labor organizing is and standing up in the face of fighting for labor rights. So when Scott Walker at the time, through Act 10 was trying to, and eventually did, basically screw over all the state workers and, did a whole bunch of really, really terrible things that didn't help the state and certainly didn't help workers. Helped the rich people though. And that's what it was meant to do. But all of those TAAs from the University of Wisconsin-Madison who started that uprising, that's what they hearkened back to. So yeah, we need labor education. It's part of why we do labor history in two. It was part of the reason that we decided that it was important to remember that stuff, because I'll tell you, even as much as I'd like to think I know, there's always more. It's quite remarkable. Another email, Rick, love the show and the work you do. You had a Trump caller yesterday talking about unions. I'm curious your thoughts on his assertion that unions killed people and his belief that the movie Hoffa was real. Well, the movie Hoffa was, there were some liberties. I remember I had interviewed former President Jim Hoffa about his father and about the movie, and no, they did push back on it. And I do find the movie entertaining. I find it interesting. Now there are stories that kind of stuff did happen. My grandfather told stories of people doing things that they weren't proud of. But when you're put in desperate situations, when you're in desperate conditions, desperate people do desperate things. And that's where I'm going to leave that. Do I know that unions killed people? I think there was the mine worker story. Anytime you've got people doing things, you've got people doing things, man. And if we're going to go down that path, compare, what's corporate America done? How many people did they take out over the years? So history is what it is. People fighting for their opportunities. And again, history we should be learning, an unvarnished history. There was some stuff that went on. That simple. Now, question becomes, in this moment, learning our history, do we want to have a desperate working class? Do we want to have people who have nothing left to lose? And we're getting there. You listen to a lot of the people who are organizing right now in large numbers. They're almost to the point where there's nothing to lose. There's no hope and opportunity. That idea that we talk about in the program all the time, work hard, play by the rules, get ahead. That get ahead part is really important to that equation. And too many people it's not yet there for them. James writes, got another email talking about my interview with Secretary of Labor Marty Walsh. Said that he loved the discussion about the Fast Food Act in California. Hope that the plight of workers and the ability to do better. The part that caught my attention is he said that we're coming in the first generation of Americans who, for the majority, have no pension savings for their retirement. Ask presently what 60-year-old adults who have paid their mortgage, who put their kids through college, what they have in their 401ks. He says the ones that I have asked have anywhere between $20,000 and $60,000 to last potentially the next 20 years. And this is what I've been saying for a while. We're heading towards a retirement crisis, because there's going to be people my age and a little bit older who are heading into retirement with nothing. The average 401k, they say something like $20,000. Because, we changed that defined benefit union pension because we allowed unions to get busted up. And they sold us on this idea that, hey, we can all be millionaires. We can all have $1 million 401ks. And I remember the first time an employer told me that. And years ago, I started a place and go, you're going to have the option of a defined benefit or the defined contribution. You can choose at the end. And if you work here 30 years, you're going to have $1 million. You're going to be a millionaire. And I'm going, the only way they're going to let a dump truck driver have $1 million is if a loaf of bread you need a wheelbarrow to pay for. You need a wheelbarrow full of cash to pay for. Because the powers to be just aren't going to allow someone to have that. And you look at the number of crashes on Wall Street and the amount of resources they've screwed working people out of. Now, am I against savings? No, I save myself. I put money into retirement accounts and things as everyone should. But because of my union, I still have a defined benefit pension that when I retire, I'm going to get, this is what we're going to get. And I want that security for every working person. This is, again, as a working class, something we should be talking about not just whispering about, something we should be demanding once again. That kind of security, that, again, the idea that if you work hard, you play by the rules, that you get ahead. It seems pretty simple to me. It seems, well, logical. And seems like something we had better figure out how to get to at some point. Because look, there's a generation of workers. You want to see angry people? Wait till they get to the end, and there's.
You're on board KCAA's Inland Talk Express.